this week. We actually just finished our yearly online business boot camp. And at the very end, day 5, we had an incredible wealth panel talking all about how they've built wealth, the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, how to heal from trauma, what gets in the way sometimes when you're building wealth and building an online business.
So what you're about to hear is a clip from this community training we did. We have Jennifer Allwood on there. She's coached over 20,000 women in online business. We have Pedro Odeo, founder of the 100X Academy, the 31-Day Wisdom Challenge. He's one of our business mentors. We had Skye Aris. She's an actress. She's a real estate investor. And we had Catherine Gordon, who's a movie producer, investor. She's author of a best-selling book, Relationship Grit. She's chairman of the board at the John Gordon Company. It was an amazing crew, you guys, amazing crew, and just total wisdom was shared. We got so much amazing feedback from the community. We were like, okay, we need to just take this out of our private community and share it publicly here on the Rainmaker Family Show. So you're about to listen to the wealth panel with these amazing family first entrepreneurs. We have a power-packed room, okay? We got Jennifer Allwood in the house. What's up, Jennifer? Jennifer, you guys just coached thousands of women in online business. Like, that's what we're doing this week. Like, she is an absolute expert in this thing. We got Catherine Gordon, okay? Movie producer, investor, businesswoman, best-selling author of Relationship Grit. Like, Catherine is just a wealth of wisdom. We had her on our podcast, and she dropped some bombs. So we're excited to be here today. She keeps it real. So we love having you, Catherine. We got Skye Aris. So awesome to have you here, Skye. Skye, an actress. She's also an investor, real estate investor. We met her through a mastermind. We actually met everyone here through masterminds, by the way, you guys. And then, of course, we got Pedro, the man, the myth, the legend. Pedro is like he's a business father to us, and he took us under his wing when we were new entrepreneurs and really just showed us the ropes online. So super excited to have you here, Pedro, because we would not be here if it wasn't for you. So just honor you, man. We love having you here. So with that, you guys, let's hop in. Today is a family wealth panel. The topic is building wealth like in a family first way. All right. Building wealth in a family first way. Like, how do we build 7, 8-figure businesses, but do it in a way that protects our family? And what does wealth really mean? Okay. Like, what does wealth really mean? And what does it mean to you guys? So we're going to keep it light at the beginning, but then we're going to go deep. The reason we have these people in this room here is because they keep it real. Like, these people don't live surface level, right? They like to go deep. Okay. So we have a rapid fire one to start, and you don't feel like everyone needs to answer every question. We got a bunch of questions. We may go off script. We're just going to kind of go with the flow. But the first one is, what was either the first dollar you ever made in an entrepreneurial venture, or some out of the box weird way that you've ever made money in your life? Okay. So Jennifer, I know you had one. Maybe you kick us off. I want to hear it.
Yes, I actually have 2. And thank you so much for having me here. And I'll keep the stories very short. But before I was a business coach, I actually owned a painting company in Kansas City. We got to do like the Extreme Home Makeover show 3 times. You're probably too young to remember that show, but some of the older people here will remember that. But I had a client call me at the beginning of my career, and she asked me, she was pregnant with triplets, and she asked me if I would paint a belly mask on her. Now that's weird. It was like one of my first dollars. I'm like, I don't even know what a belly mask is. And this was before Google. So I'm having to go, to figure out what that is. But that was a weird dollar. The way I started coaching was a really weird way to make money in the beginning as well. Do you know what an answering machine is, Stephen? Do you remember those? Like the things that had blinking lights when you got home from the mall? Okay. I had an answering machine, and I owned my painting company, and I came home one day and pushed play, and some precious woman in Florida, who I have no idea even now what her name is or who she was, but she said, Jennifer, I've been watching your social media and you keep growing, to hundreds of thousands of followers. Would you be interested in coaching me? Could I pay you to coach me? And I remember listening to this lady, and I'm thinking, what does she mean, coach her? I don't know what that means. I'm thinking like football is, has coaches and softball coaches, but like, what does she mean, coach her on social media? And it just resonated with me. I didn't even call her back. Now, when I look at that, I'm like, what a wimp I was. But I didn't even message her back. But then a few months later, I kept thinking about that woman asking me to teach her, to coach her. And I started my $47 a month, like social media group, which quickly grew to we ended up having like 1,800 people at one time, and Forbes did an article on it. It was a $2 million a year business, but it all started because some random woman in Florida left me a voicemail message, and I just kind of kept following the crumbs of what was next. So there you go. Those are my weird ways of making money in the
Oh
beginning.
my goodness.
cool.
Okay, who else got a weird one? We've sold couches. We flipped couches before. So you get them free off Craigslist. You clean them up, sell them. That was my side hustle. Early days of entrepreneurship. What about you guys? Any weird ways or out of the box ways you made money in the early days of entrepreneurship?
Maybe not entrepreneurship. I think I made my first few bucks playing accordion.
Oh dang! I didn't know you played accordion.
I don't play accordion
A
now.
hidden
My dad.
talent.
So we're Portuguese. We're Portuguese, and my dad lived vicariously through me. He always wanted to play the accordion, so he basically just bribed me to learn the accordion. And it's like, I mean, it's like the nerdiest, geeky instrument there is, right? I'm like, dude. But he's like, I'll pay you. And then I got pretty good. And I started doing some little gigs. And that's like the first money I made. And then I learned bass and got into some cool bands. But I paid. I never, in college, I didn't have to get like a job. Like I had some scholarships to pay and then, but I played in a band. So like I went to UC Davis. I would drive home to the Bay Area, play gigs, made cash money, and that was my spending money. So like the first money I really made as an entrepreneur was as a musician. They got me all the way through college. And then once I got married, had kids, then it started to not be so great. But that's probably the worst way I can remember to make money.
It's awesome. I love it. I love it. Catherine, you got one?
Yeah, I've got a couple. When I start to think about it, and then when Pedro was talking, I thought, oh, I've got one that's really different. So when I was in college, I had no money and was on financial aid, and I realized that all the bars in the area had all these contests like Lady in Red, bikini, and there were just other things, drinking contests. And I literally made up a list of all the contests on what days. And I enlisted my boyfriend at the time, and he would literally drive me from bar to bar, and I would enter these contests.
Okay.
And I won. I mean, like $500 for,
Wow.
a 19-year-old girl at that time. And I thought, wow, okay, this is kind of cool. And it always stuck with me. Right. And so it's like that first entrepreneurial thing. And that's why I can't wait to answer another one of the questions, because it finally, I hit a brick wall with working for other people, but I'll let you keep going.
Yeah, I want to hear about that. So there's this the line in the sand one. Like, so
Yep.
we had a question on there that I feel like a lot of people this week we're teaching on how to start a remote business, right? Something you can do from anywhere, live the life you want, but have that time and location freedom, right? And I think a lot of people listening are kind of at that moment, like I'm ready for something different. So the question I want to throw to you guys was there a line in the sand moment where you kind of drew a line, you're like, I'm not going to earn income like in a normal way anymore, right? Because everyone here kind of does things differently. So Catherine, let's start with that since it sparked that thought.
Well, I mean, it's this, when you're working for someone else, you're really building their business.
Yes, you are.
And so at what point do you decide? And so for me, I was waiting tables, and there were just the worst customers. Everybody was coming in, and I'll never forget, this is the pivotal moment. And this guy's like, hey, get me the ketchup. And I turned around, I'm like, get your own damn ketchup. And I realized at that moment, like, okay, I've got to figure out how to do something where I'm not working for someone else and I'm earning my own income. And that was kind of the beginning. Had a lot of starts and fails, I will tell you that, John and I both, but ultimately that consistency and drive keeps it going.
I'd like to share. I was gonna answer the first question about how I made money. Was it that weird or out the box like some of the stories that you got before? Because unless stripping is considered that, but I thought about it. I didn't do that though. I started babysitting in the neighborhood as a young girl, right? Babysitting. But I'll tell you, to answer your line in the sand, I started growing in a career in human resources in my young 20s. And everywhere I went, I started demanding a salary, demanding a salary. I started learning how to negotiate after being in HR, how to negotiate my salary or my total compensation package, right? And everywhere I went, like because of my confidence and my experience, I would get what I asked for. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm growing, I'm getting what I asked for, but it never seems like it's enough. Cause I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make 5 grand a month and 10 grand a month. And then finally, I met a girlfriend who told me about her life insurance license and working on Medicare, and I took the risk and I built my agency with selling Medicare, and in 6 weeks I made 27 grand. And I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. So there really is no ceiling when you're doing it for yourself. And you're so that was the line of sand. I was like, there's no way I could be W-2. There's no way I could be just over broke. There's no way that, I mean, there's more risk on this side of it, but there's so much more reward. So that was like the line in the sand for me, when I was like, all right, I set my goals and I go after them every month, and the number just gets higher and higher.
Wow. Jennifer Pedro, you got any of those moments where it's like, yeah, a new job opportunity, it kind of ruined the 9 to 5 thing for you?
Well, I have a line in the sand, but it was really past when I did a 9 to 5, because that was, 20 some years ago. But back when the pandemic hit, which was not that long ago, I had a book coming out like the first week of April, and the pandemic hit in March of that year. And so along with the pandemic, I had like a 12-city, or with the book tour, I had a 12-city book tour. The book was coming out, and I was supposed to have a live event. We had 400 women coming to Kansas City. And I've spoke at Pedro's event. So Pedro knows this. I do not like to be on stage with like a clicker and a slideshow and all the eyes on me. It makes me so nervous. And so as an introvert, I hated it, but I've told myself my entire career, but this is kind of what you have to do. So I remember, Pedro, when you asked me if I would speak at your event, I was like, well, I'll do it if you sit on stage with me and it's a conversation. And then I'd kind of gotten away from that because I thought that I needed to, have the clicker and the slideshow. Anyway, when the pandemic hit, we had to switch our 400 in-person event to an online event. And I remember just this incredible feeling of relief, like, oh my gosh, this is where I love to be, online, not on a stage. And I put a line in the sand then. I am not going to speak on a stage ever again unless it's conversation style, panel style. I'll do online all day, every day. But that has been a decision that has served me so well in the last 5 years, because it's just, my anxiety level would go way high, which my family would inevitably pay for. I'd be in the fetal position for days ahead of time. And so that was a line in the sand I drew halfway through my business career, but one that I'm still so glad that I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Even though you totally crush it, like you don't need anybody with
I
you.
feel like my
I'm just saying you can
communication, but I do a podcast, so that's online and not face to face. I coach online. I love the online space, and the truth is, I think that's where God's really called me. So when I'm on a stage, if I'm having a conversation with someone, I'm great. But if it's just me and I have to like do a slideshow, my brain doesn't work like that. I'm very chaotic. I don't know if it's menopause, ADHD, female, I don't know, but I can't like get the clicker to work and the slideshow, and people are watching me and I'm in heels, and I hate the entire thing. And so that was a good line in the sand.
You just
and
need
I
to
think
ditch
that's
the slides, Jen. Keep everything else. Just ditch the slides. Slides are the worst.
Well,
But
I think we tell ourselves what business is supposed to look like and what we're
Yeah,
supposed to
that's it.
do. And the older I get, the more I realize, like, I'm too old to do what I'm supposed to do. I just want to do what feels good to me and where I know my gifting is at. And those are good lines in the sand to draw.
That's good.
Yeah.
And just for me, the line in the sand, how I got started in entrepreneurship. I mean, I had a corporate job. I went to college because you had to. But I'm like, I'm going to be 50. And like, if you didn't go to college back then, you were like a loser. And there wasn't online anything except there wasn't, if you were an entrepreneur, that meant you were like a loser and you didn't get into college. So college was the only path. Like now it's a path. It's not the only path. So I went to college, got a job, corporate career, 7 years. And then I was commuting 3 hours a day. I was waking up at like 5 in the morning, had to get in a car, drive somewhere. I mean, so I was in the car 3 hours a day. I now had a couple kids. I think I maybe had 2 or 3 kids. I'd rather be home, see 3 hours in the car, working a job where I was pretty well paid at the time. And I had like, some status and I climbed the ladder, but like I just knew this was like meaningless work. Like this was not like I was not making the world a better place. This wasn't fulfilling. This was not fulfilling work. And my boss was just got that position and he wasn't that much older than me. So I'm like, dude, I'm landlocked. Like I'm going to be stuck at this role, at this income for a hot minute because this guy ain't going nowhere. And I'm 3 hours in the car. And my income's capped. I'm like, so it's so funny. I was telling this to a friend of ours who was over for dinner, and this would be a good lesson for some of you. And I was complaining to, she's a friend. She's like a wealthy friend, was in the mortgage business, made a lot of money, bought a lot of real estate. And I was just telling her, Joanne, like, I'm kind of stuck here, you know, in this income level, and it's kind of driving. And just casually over dinner, she's like, oh, well, why don't you become an appraiser? And if you become an appraiser, like I own a mortgage company, like I'll just give you all of my appraisal business. Now, here's the lesson. She said that to me. We were at my kitchen table. The second, like she said it to me, like I sat there for like maybe 3 seconds. I didn't say anything to her. I got up, walked over to my office, logged on to the internet through AOL. Look Google, or probably not Google. Probably then it was like, yeah.
Ask Jeeves.
Ask Jeeves, or I don't even know what the heck it was. It was something, maybe it's AOL, like, you know, how to become an appraiser. Got the search result, Anthony Schools, clicked a link, pulled out my credit card, and, you know, probably risked getting my credit card stolen back then. And I purchased the course to become an appraiser. This may have taken all of 7 minutes. I walked back to the table and I'm like, okay, I just bought the course.
There's such a great lesson there, though. There, you were presented with an opportunity. You didn't overthink it. You went with your gut feeling and you jumped quickly, which I always think at this point, I know you said, Stephen, I've coached a lot of women. I've coached over 20,000 at this point. I can always tell the fast decision makers, they're going to do something because they don't overthink. Because when we're thinking about things, we can talk ourselves out of about anything. So I love that, Pedro, that you just jumped quickly without really giving it a lot of thought.
But there's that. And then here's the craziest part of the whole story. Then I go to appraisal school. My first day in appraisal school. I'm fired up. I'm excited to be there. I got there I think I got there a little late. There was no seats. It was a big long room. It was like during the housing boom. It's like 2000 and probably 3 or 2003, I think. So like housing is starting to pick up, you know. It's busy times. This big long room at this hotel. And like it was full, but like no one sat in the front. So like there was 1 seat or 2 left at the front of the front row, teacher table. We'll go right up there. Now I'm in the front seat, right in front of this guy. He's asking questions. I'm answering all the questions because I'm excited to be there. And I'm like, bah, 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 bah. And I'm like, why do I know this so much? Like, how do I know this? Well, because I had an econ background. So literally he dismisses the whole class. He's like, okay, guys, go to lunch. See you back in an hour. And he's like, hey, can I talk to you? And I'm like, oh, dang. I'm like, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. I've been talking too much, disrupting. And I'm like, am I in trouble? He's like, no. He said, but, you know, let the other people answer some questions, you know, like you kind of need to, you're answering like all the questions. And I'm like, oh, okay, my bad. He's like, but, what are you doing? Like, why do you, oh, I want to get a license. Da, 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 da. That guy hired me on the spot. And it was way more convenient because I was commuting in San Jose. His appraisal company was in San Jose. So he hires me on the spot. He's actually one of the best appraisers in the nation. He serves on the board, the National Board of Appraisers. He trained me in commercial appraising and residential appraising. I never ended up working for my friend. So the lady who told me about the opportunity said I never even ended up working for her, but just walking that out got me hired by this guy. And that really set my real estate career like off. Quit my job 6 months later. And so, yes, the part of it is just like taking action. You see an opportunity. Of course, you can't jump at everything, but when you're hungry and when you need breakthrough and you're hungry and like, what are you even thinking about? Like what, like if your life sucks now, what are you thinking about? Like now I have options now. I need to think now because I'm in a great place. I don't want to mess it up. But if I'm struggling, I don't like my life. Like, what are you even thinking of? If it sounds great, go test, try. Like, what your life's already, you're not happy already. So the sooner you find out if it works for you or not. So anyhow, I think about that and I think about like, I'm not saying be reckless and do stupid stuff. What I'm saying is, Jen's is like, you're right. Overthinking, analysis paralysis, what ifs, that is the kryptonite that keeps people stuck in their current life. And so we've seen it to people that take swift action, not reckless action, but
Right.
swift. Like quickly count the
That's good.
costs, quickly figure this out, do the pros and cons, and just see like people that are able to move without every single piece of information. I know some of you guys are real logical and some of you are like more like logical planner thinkers, and we need those people. But like, and that's a gift from God, and that God will use that gift in your life. But you need to be able to know when to shut that thing down, because in life, when these big doors open, you never have all the details. Never, never, never is that how it ever works. So needing to kind of figure, just see, quickly assess, and then go, and then trust the process. So that was my line in the sand that led to real estate. Then I got to insurance and I got to all that stuff and all that. So that's kind of that was my line in the sand, was 3 hours on the road, capped income, and an unfulfilled, like we're all going to die. Like I'm not willing to spend my life doing things that I don't feel have any real purpose. So that was really the big one for me.
Yeah.
Stephen,
So good.
could I talk about overthinking for just a quick second? Would you care?
Yeah. Love it.
Please.
Okay, so I got my life coaching certification 2 years ago, only because I feel like I've been life coaching inside of my business coaching for years, but I felt like I kind of needed like, I don't know, some letters behind my name or something. It's probably a pride thing. I don't know if I was bored. Anyhow, so I learned a little bit in there about overthinking, but I also feel like just through the Lord, through the Holy Spirit, I've kind of been downloaded a couple of things. So I think there are two main reasons a lot of times women will overthink on things like, should I sign up for a course? Should I leave my 9 to 5? Should I start a business? One is if a woman has been through significant trauma, and trauma, by the way, doesn't have to be significant, is something different to you than it is to me. So anytime your basic needs are not met, that actually can be considered a trauma. So divorce, loss of a spouse. I mean, there's so many things that can happen, right? So if a woman has been through significant trauma, a lot of times she'll overthink because she'll think to herself, if I do sit down and do the pros and cons, if I do look at this from every angle, if I do set up every scenario in my mind and try to, hedge my bets, then XYZ won't happen and things will be successful. So they overthink there. The other thing is, and I tread on this topic really lightly, but as women, especially if you're women in my age range, when we were being raised, it was really an era where children were meant to be seen and not heard, and especially girls. And so I think from a very young age, a lot of us have been trained to ask permission. So if you think about just public school, you got to raise your hand to use the restroom. You got to, get a note to leave. I was raised in a time where you asked to leave the table. And so there wasn't a whole lot of being trained to follow our gut feeling, to trust ourselves. You were told, put on a jacket, but I'm not cold. Well, it's cold outside, put on a jacket, you're going to get cold. But I promise, Mom, I'm not cold. So we're being almost trained to not trust our guts. And then you become a 50-year-old woman, you want to start a business, and you're like, wait a second, do I need to ask permission? I don't have anybody telling me it's okay. And you actually don't even realize that that's what's happening, but you end up like overthinking because you're like, wait, can I do this? Should I do this? And so I think those are two really big reasons why a lot of women overthink. So I saw so many women in the chat saying they were overthinkers. And so just examine, like, have you gone through a lot of trauma, or were you really raised in a generation where you felt like you needed to ask permission for everything? Because those are two reasons women will pause, even when they see like great opportunity, to work with you guys, to partner with somebody, to go into business with someone. But those are two big reasons I think women will often overthink. So.
Thank you, Jennifer, for taking that time and sharing more. Because I think, I'm seeing it in the chat too. Some people relating to that and learning. And I think with overthinking, the more you practice, like taking that swift action, it gets easier. And I know Stephen and I have seen that in our entrepreneur venture, or if he wants to take a risk, but I'm unsure, I've learned to lean on and to trust too. So I think that even happens within partners and relationships there. I would love to know from each of you or a few of you, like, what does the word wealth mean to you and your family? Talking about like making money, but what does wealth really look like for you guys?
I'll go. Oh, go ahead, Skye. Go ahead, Skye. Go ahead.
It's okay. It's okay. For me, the big W, wealth, is I'm winning, right? I'm winning in every area in my life. It's not just financially, it's in health, it's in relationships, and it's in building a legacy. So for that W, for me, it's more loaded. Kind of like when you hear the word shalom, people think about just peace, but shalom is so much more than just peace. Shalom is everything: the health, the peace, the joy, not having to worry about what's coming next in life. Wealth is saying that everything is taken care of, and it's going down to my generations. It's going down to my children's children. And so it means freedom, it means peace of mind. So that's my wealth.
That's beautiful.
Go for it, Catherine.
I thought about this when I read the question, and I love what Skye, I definitely thought a lot about what you've said. And then I realized at the very bottom of everything for me, it's the word comfort. Comfort. Like, I remember the day that I didn't have to worry or decide, was I going to buy something at the grocery store to feed my kids or not, because I couldn't afford it, right? It was like the decision, or, to finally be at a place where I could go. This is going to sound ridiculous. I'll never forget the day I could go into Costco and actually buy things in Costco and not have to worry about it. And so at the bottom of all that, just in terms of just being comfortable, being comforted, having that comfort to not have to worry about every move we make in our family, in our life.
As entrepreneurs and parents, convenience is key. But that doesn't mean you should have to sacrifice quality. For years, we nerded out on coffee, trying to get the highest quality, but that takes a lot of time, weighing the beans, getting the right grind, getting your water to the perfect temperature. And so when we had kids, we kind of shifted to the pod system, right? And it was a major downgrade. That was until we found X Bloom.
X Bloom works with the best roasters around the country, and their machine truly brings the specialty coffee shop experience to your home. If you love a good pour over, I highly recommend you check this out. You can elevate your coffee drinking experience while keeping up with your kids. If you're ready to transform your mornings, head to rainmakerfamily.com/deals to get started. That's rainmakerfamily.com/deals.
Man, so good. I want to talk a little bit about,
Stephen, I was going to jump in on there and just offer a little bit more.
Go for it.
This is a big, I talk about this a lot and teach on this. So let me offer a couple other things. Of course, I agree with what Skye said and what Catherine said. It feels great to and I saw Danielle's chef when Catherine talked about going into Costco and being able to know you can walk into Costco and whatever you want, you can just put it on the cart. And then, so Danielle, I saw you were high five and amen, and right, because that connected to you of walking into Costco. So there are moments in your life when all of a sudden you're in a position where it becomes very real to you that you now have options that you didn't have before. And there's a feeling that's now connected to that. Okay, that's wonderful. I want to offer a couple of little bit, maybe also maybe just kind of some handles to think about wealth from a little bit more of a practical financial perspective. So of course, traditionally, wealth is defined as net worth. Okay, assets minus liabilities. And when you start getting into wealthy people, they talk about net worth, right? You read Forbes and they're worth $1 billion, $2 billion, $100 million. So net wealth technically is assets minus liabilities. Here's the problem though. I grew up with many people who were wealthy on paper, had big net worths, but because their net worth was all in real estate and they were paying mortgages and property taxes and repairs, that like their cash flow was terrible. Right. So yeah, they maybe had a $8 million net worth, but they're always broke. So net worth alone is not enough to tell the picture of if someone truly wealthy. But so net worth, so to me, wealth is a three-legged stool. Net worth, assets, what do you own minus what do you owe? The second piece though is disposable, free-flowing cash flow. You're only going to feel as wealthy as you have discretionary income, which means money left over after you've paid all the bills and after you put away for the children's college and after you put away for your retirement, after you've put away and done all the responsible stuff, how much is left over that is truly discretionary? You will never feel wealthy until that is in abundance. And then the third part of how you measure wealth is in time. Like most Americans are one paycheck away from bankruptcy, which means they don't even have 2 weeks of wealth. That means they don't even have 2 weeks of wealth, right? So wealth is measured in time. How long could you not use your body to produce active income with your body before you go broke? And one of the cool things about this Amazon opportunity is it's an opportunity that kind of allows you to start to think about creating income structures that don't require that all the time.
Yeah.
But it's basically, I would offer wealth is those three. Look at wealth through the lens of those three things. What do I own minus what do I owe? How long can I afford to, not have to work if I didn't need to or want to or could to? And then how much discretionary free flowing cash flow? I'm on a journey in my own life. It's like I've all three. I'm doing really well with two of those. One of those, which is time. My time. I've chosen to build my business heavily around me and my time. And now I'm like, okay, how do I now start to increase that? Okay. So that's just, I would offer that to the conversation, Steve and Chelsea, for everyone here. And I also think that's what drew you guys to this opportunity. I mean, I've known these guys a long time. Okay. I've known them a long time. And from the very beginning, I met Steven and Chelsea. He was always talking about like passive income and passive income. And even at an early age, this guy was obsessed with like having money come in and passive. And I'm like, bro, like, why does this matter to you so much? Like, you're young, you don't even have kids. Like, just go work, I didn't get it. And I didn't even agree with it initially. I'm like, I'm like, what's passive income? Let's go work, But now I'm 50 and I'm getting tired and I'm like, oh man, this makes sense, But this is part of their calling because they even wanted this before they even had kids. So this is actually part of their calling, that you guys had this desire to go build this even early. And again, that's, so the Amazon opportunity specifically, and maybe others, it's really helping towards the time one first. And I think location freedom and time freedom are the first two things to go get. Don't worry about financial freedom. Like, don't worry about that. Like, let that come later but if you've got location freedom, guys, I'm in Portugal. I'm in Portugal. I've been here for 3 months.
Yes.
I never have to come home. Have to come home. No, I'm not on vacation. I'm working, but I get to work from Portugal.
Yes.
I can go anywhere. Like in 2024, and if you're American, America is a crazy town right now. I don't care who you like or don't like, but the fact is, what happens if your country ain't so hot anymore and you're like, you know what? I want to go here and go there. I mean, this place is full of Americans, even my own town. So one, get location freedom. Whatever vehicle gets you that fastest, jump on it and go. Then the next thing is time freedom, in my opinion. Take control over where your location, then get control back over your calendar. And now, if you want to talk about financial freedom, and great, fine. But I see people chasing financial freedom at the sacrifice of time freedom and location freedom. And it's like, and then, bro, then you're going to be miserable a long time. So anyhow, Just one of
That's
those for
good.
that on the wealth category.
I'd love to add on to that. So I think you guys are just wise beyond your years, because I think for those of us that are a little older, maybe those of us are on the back nine of life, being raised in a generation where it was kind of drilled into you to work hard, work hard, work hard. I think we made the mistake of thinking that equals work long. Work hard means work long. And so having to do like a total mind shift on that I can work hard in this much time every day. And Pedro, I've always talked about two of your three things. I don't talk about net worth very much, but for me, the wealthy is time freedom and it's financial freedom. Because if I have oodles and oodles of time on my hands, but I don't have any money in the bank, like that's no fun. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who's off for a couple of weeks. I'm like, well, what are you gonna do? She's like, well, I can't do much because I don't have, any money to go spend. So I'm just going to be probably cleaning the house. And I'm thinking, oh, geez, like you've got 2 weeks. That stinks for her that there's no money in the bank to go do anything during that time. So if you have time freedom, but not the finances, that's no fun. And if you've got the finances, you got a bank full of money, but you don't have the time to do anything with it. And you can't go vacation with your family. And you can't, just like Pedro, like the location freedom, huge for me because we've got 4 kids, 2 boys in Arizona. So we've got a house there. We've got a house in Florida. I'm actually doing a real estate deal this morning in Florida. Skye, I want to talk to you a little bit later. I know, literally was making an offer right before I came on here, but I love being able to work from other places, but I want to make sure I have time that I can spend the money and money that, that I'm able to use as well. So I love that.
Yeah, that's good. I want to talk about, I know the reason why we reached out to you guys is because, again, this is not a surface level crew, right? And we see the highlight reel sometimes on Instagram and all over the internet, but I want to kind of talk about the hard stuff a little bit too. So in the journey of, building wealth and building business, what is like one hard lesson? If you could kind of reach into this room and hold the hand of someone, a mom in this group who's starting her business, and say, hey, I want to teach you a lesson that like, hopefully you don't have to learn, right? Skye, I know you do have to run pretty soon. So yeah, let's have you, I want to have you share. That'd be awesome.
Northwest 115th Terrace or Northwest. Telling me what I have a client that flew into town that wants to see an $8 million property, and I got to go show it. So I love y'all and I enjoy this party, but gotta run.
Hey,
but I do want to say, in terms of the one lesson that I learned that hurt the most was don't look at your success as a success. The minute you look at your success as a success, you become comfortable and you don't strive for the next success. That's our biggest enemy, is winning and staying in that winning feeling, that it feels good to win. But what happens when we win is we get complacent and we're not as hungry as we were when we weren't winning. And I fell into that early into my entrepreneurial success. I was like, yeah, I'm going here, I'm going there, party, let's buy this, let's buy that. And I was enjoying the wins and not staying hungry. And it reminds me of hearing, you got to be hungry. You got to stay hungry, because if you lose that and you ride on that success, you're going to wake up tomorrow like, okay, where's the next big win coming from? How are we putting ourselves in a position to still make money while we sleep, which is why we're on this call, right? Yes. How does money work for us instead of us working for it? So that would be the one thing that I would say was a big lesson for me.
That's good.
That's good. Who else got one? You want to reach into the room, hold a hand, say, hey, learn this from me. Like, I hope you don't have to go through this pain because I went through it. Catherine?
Of course, I wrote the book Relationship Grit, and it talks about this. It's actually the T, which is if you are married or in a relationship and you're trying to build this, you have to remember that you're on the same team. And even if you are single with children, it's the same thing. You have to remember that you're in it together. And so many times, I think when we're in the struggle and we're trying to make things happen, it's so easy to point the finger at the other person, the blame game. And I always say, don't keep score, because if you keep score, you're both going to lose. And in relationships, and even as you're building a business, there's always going to be an ebb and flow. It's easy to kind of look over and say, oh, I'm doing more, or I'm sacrificing more for the family. And so just remembering it's a rhythm and we're all on the same team. I think if I had learned that earlier, it would have been better for everyone in my family.
That's good. I got one.
For it.
I wish that I hadn't been such a people pleaser, and worried about what everybody was going to think when I was starting my business, especially because I was in a very creative industry, in the painting industry. I originally started out teaching women how to like do their own painting, their kitchen cabinets, DIY things. And turns out the women in my industry didn't love that. They didn't love that I was teaching other people how to do it. And then I'm getting on television on Extreme Home Makeover there. That didn't seem to be real popular either. And so I had a lot of women that were in my industry that were real upset with me. And who does she think she is, teaching other people online? And that really got into my head and cost me a lot of time and peace in the beginning. And as a Christian, I'd always heard that Bible scripture that the fear of man is a snare. And I had heard it, but I don't think I really knew what that meant until now. I can reflect and be like, oh, that was a trap that I was almost being trapped by worrying about what all these other people were going to think. And a lot of times, women that'll come into my community, they'll not have that experience, but they'll be worried because maybe they've tried a couple businesses before and those have failed. So they don't want to try another one because what's their mother-in-law going to say? What are those girls on Facebook going to say who they're not even real life friends with, but they graduated from high school? And, why do we even care? But it's interesting how wondering what other people are going to think about this new thing that we're doing, how that can really stunt us and keep us stuck for a little bit. So I wish that early on, that's the first time I actually went to therapy. I went and got a counselor, a good Christian counselor, was like, why am I letting the words of people that I'm not even really in relationship with hold me back? And what is it that's in me that is so terrified of other people's opinions? And I had to kind of get to the root of that. And I wish I'd done it sooner, because as soon as I went all in on my business, the trajectory of our finances changed our family forever. And now I look back and I'm like, if I'd just been smarter and done it 10 years earlier. I mean, because at one point we were considering bankruptcy when our boys were little and the real estate market crashed, 2008, 2009. I had my painting company. It depended heavily on new construction, and my husband was a real estate agent. So when I say we've been broke, we've been broke. And then, I had this painting skill and people were asking me to coach, and I just was really all up in my head, worried because people were not happy with me. And I just think now, gosh, if I had had the guts to do it sooner and got to the root of that sooner, we could have avoided a whole lot of financial pain that we went through for many years. So.
Jennifer, I would love to lean into that just a little bit, if you don't mind sharing. I know you're always like an open book, but I love that you said I went to counseling and got to the root of it. Yeah. For you, like, what do you feel like was the root from caring so much about what other people think? Because I think there's a lot of that, or, trying another business, and mother-in-law, friends on Facebook, all those things listed.
Well, I think that people pleasing can come from a lot of different places, but usually it always goes back to childhood. And for me, I think it was wanting to please my parents. I was firstborn, didn't know my biological father, still don't, had a lot of pain from that. So just thinking, if I do all the right things, people will be happy with me, they'll like me. So I think, people pleasing can come from a lot of different places. But the bottom line is, once we understand like why we behave the way we do, then we can change it. But otherwise, like white knuckling, for those people that were in here saying, they're overthinkers. Well, it's great that you know that about yourself, but do you know why? Because if you can get to the root of why, and you can kind of pull that thing up and whatever lie you've been telling yourself, replace it with the truth, God's truth, then things will change. But just thinking, that you can, let me give you a good example. I tend to love sugar. Okay. I love sugar, and I love rewarding myself with sugar after I do something fun like this. I'd love to go just eat a whole handful of Hershey's Kisses, or raw chocolate chip cookie dough is my drug of choice. And I've had to really get to the root of why do I do that? Because just thinking I'm going to stop sugar, that sounds fine and dandy. It turns out it never works. But it occurred to me a while back, and I think part of that's just asking God to reveal to you sometimes, where did this come from? When I was growing up, we always would have sugar in the house. Mom would reward us, come home from school every day, there's brownies or there's cookies or whatever. So it really became like a comfort for me, like a home thing. And so now I'm like, okay, So since I know that when I'm wanting comfort, I go to sugar, what could I replace that with instead? And so same thing with like people pleasing. If you know where that comes from, then you can replace it with something else instead. Same thing with overthinking. But I think we have to like figure out, why do I do the things that I do? And then we can really shift it. So for me, the people pleasing just came from early on. And I also, this is part of my story too. I was raised in a pretty, not a great household with an alcoholic father, and it was dangerous a lot. And so for me, there was a dance of, when I behave a certain way, then I'm also safe, which then kind of translated over into adulthood and into entrepreneurship. And it doesn't seem like the two should matter, but in my head, if I did all the right things in my business, then maybe all the people in my industry wouldn't hate me, you know, or if I do all the right things in business, then maybe, you know, people will like me, they'll want to buy my things. And it really doesn't work like that. But I really had to get to the bottom of that with some decent therapy. And I'm so glad that I did. So,
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Wow.
yeah, you're
It's
welcome.
important.
Well, I mean, I can just tag on that. That's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to hear it.
you guys know, I mean, obviously you guys know my story, but I mean, like, so I went through an epic business failure, lost millions of dollars of my own money, lost millions more of investor money. It was a massive, massive failure. I mean, the first time I ever failed. So it was a traumatic experience for me. Ended up, millions in the hole. I mean, it was a very traumatic, painful experience. And I didn't even know how I got here. I really didn't honestly know how this happened. So, I went and I also sought out a mentor. I sought out a mentor, um, because I never wanted to be there again. And so what I discovered is essentially kind of and it kind of led to a lot of the work and teaching I do in entrepreneurship, but it helped me realize that, like, I had this saying that I say now, that heart wounds create blind spots. And so my heart wound that I did not even realize was also a father wound. Even though I know my dad, he's still alive. He's my real dad. He raised me. He was very active and present in my life. He took me to all the practices and tennis practice and music. But you know, like, I'm a words of affirmation person, turns out, and he's old school immigrant. Like, he wasn't very vocal, like, "Oh, you're amazing, son. Oh, I'm proud of you, son. I love you, son." Like, to be like, not like, "Woe is me," but like, I never heard that my entire childhood, never once. I'm talking about like very good grades, 3.9 student, number one ranked tennis player,
Overachiever.
scholarships, overachiever, firstborn. And I'm the kid every other parent wants to have, but my own dad doesn't think I'm good enough. And I'm like, what
Totally
the
relate
shit,
to
right?
that.
I'm like, and so I got my own kids. Now I don't even know this. I'm not in this to make money for my family. I tell myself that. No, I'm in this to make my dad have to tell me, like, I'm in this to win so big that my dad eventually, I'm going to drag this approval out of him. I'm going to make him tell me he loves me. I'm going to win so big in life. He's going to have to tell he's proud. I'm taking now reckless risk to crush it so big, so fast. For that reason, I'm saying it's for my wife, it's for my kids. It's not, because we already had plenty. I was on a very predictable path to millions and multi-millions. But when I saw something come along my path that was going to get me there faster, I ignored all the warning signs. I ignored my wife. She's like, "Those people are lying. They're lying to you. Don't trust them." I'm like, "You're a hater. You don't like anybody. Shut up." Right? Like, what do you know? I went to college. You're the housewife, you know? Like, I didn't say it like that, but I thought it. And the fact is, like, now that's why we do everything together. And but anyhow, like, real talk, just being honest. I know it's, you know, I got a bunch of ladies here. And now I'm like, here, like, this real talk.
This is old Pedro.
This is old Pedro. But my wife had amazing discernment and intuition and a prophetic gift I didn't realize. Okay. And I did not want her to be right. So that's why the blind spots. I did not want to see the red flags because I wanted to believe this business was so amazing, because I wanted to, you know, create this wealth, not in 5 years or 10 years, but in 2. Why? So my dad I would win the approval of my father. So the fact is, this is like, we spend so much time on this. And I've done I didn't do Christian counseling. I did something called inner healing, which is a different way to probably get at the same thing. I'm too ADD to sit on someone's couch for 8 months, So I like, but counseling can work, inner healing can work. I had deliverance too. Like I had some deliverance that was part of it too. That's something else. That's, so I would say that's the first thing is this. The first thing is, in my experience, and not my experience, like almost everyone's got a father wound. Almost everyone has a father wound. Like literally almost everyone. Good dad, bad dad, no dad, like everyone's almost got. So like look there, make sure that you're not trying to create this income, this business or lifestyle for these outward things.
Yeah.
And the second thing I would tell you, my biggest lesson, and it's the one thing, if you ask I have a couple of mentees and people that are very close to me that are now not mentees or family. They're like sons to us. Stephen and Chelsea are like that to us, but also is Rami, who happens to be like in the room right now. And he will tell you, if you ask him, one of the best pieces of advice I've ever given him, I'll give to you. It's look at the people, not the deal. And this is what's missing in the online world. This is what's missing in the biz op space. People come on the internet, flashy deals, look at all this, and of course they're going to make it look amazing. They're trying to sell you a biz op, but don't look at the biz op because the biz op is irrelevant. Look at the people. Look at the people, not the deal. And so you guys are here in a 5-day challenge, looking at the Amazon opportunity. The Amazon opportunity is not debatable. There is gazillions of dollars being made on Amazon, right? Like you can be part of that, and there's a way to do that, and these guys can help you do that. But why you should very much consider doing this and being here is not for Amazon. It's because these people forget Amazon. Look at Stephen and Chelsea. These are people. Look at the people, not the deal. If you guys knew these people, like I know these people, like the Amazon thing is a bonus.
Inspect the fruit.
Can I jump in here? I love this.
The deal. Yeah, go ahead.
I love this, Pedro. And it really goes back to, because we were talking about, reasons why we don't act on things. And Jennifer, you were saying the fear of what people think. And so we're just getting real. So I'm going to share this with you, but it goes back to mentorship, Pedro, and we'll talk about that, like exactly what you guys are doing at Rainmaker. I'll share it now. So I literally I grew up in an alcoholic family, started smoking pot at 13, started doing cocaine at 15, started smoking cocaine at 16, moved in with my drug dealing boyfriend. I could just go on and on. I finally ended up leaving him, actually moved to Nashville thinking that I could change my life. But no matter where you go, there you are.
There you are.
Found the same people, the same drugs, the same thing. So all that to say, I did finally end up quitting doing drugs and drinking. But the shame was still there because that was deep, right? That was the way I grew up, always with the shame. And so it took a lot of therapy and a lot of hanging around the right people and being with the right people to lift me up. And in turn, me mentoring people to help lift them up to get to a different place. And so when you're embarking on something new, with the Amazon, so with anything, you're always going to get that kickback. Even to this day, as successful as I am, the people who don't believe in me the most are my closest family members.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we were just up in New York with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. They don't read our books. They have nothing. It's the craziest thing. They do not acknowledge it. They can't. And so thank goodness, we are in groups and surrounded with people who empower us and who help us work through that. And Jennifer, to your point, help with the mindset.
So it can't just be strategy. Strategy will only get you so far.
So the groups and the mentorship, that's everything. That's what you need. to take it to a new level. So just wanted to share that.
Could I speak on the mentorship thing for just a second? Would you mind? So I love what you were just saying too, Catherine, about like getting mentored by people and then mentoring people, because that's biblical. That's Titus 2, where we've got somebody that's before us and we're reaching out to the people behind us, and we're all called to that. But when it comes to mentorship, I think one of the things, like, remember, Pedro, when you were going to have that live event and I bought a ticket to your event, and then you're like, hey, you're going to be here while you speak. I think just through osmosis, I've always understood the value of proximity. And I think proximity is something that people don't talk about enough, because when you see someone who's got the fruit in their life of something you want. So for instance, you guys, Chelsea and Stephen, you are young. You've got some time freedom. You've got some money freedom. You've got lots of things going for you guys right now. You're moving and shaking. People can look at your life and see the fruit of what you're doing. So when people see something like that, if you understand proximity, you understand, if I come up under the coaching of these people or the mentorship of these people, or just can even be close to them, there's overflow that happens and you innately just get touched by that. I've got on my wall right here pictures of me with a couple of people that I've gotten into the room with them only because I understood proximity. I've got Sarah Jakes Roberts on the wall right here. I will buy a VIP ticket every day of the week to get into a room with someone like that. I've got Lance Wall now. I've got Dave Ramsey, the CEO of Hobby Lobby. I've got pictures of all of them because I've tried to get near them, not to get anything from them that they would even be aware of, but I just understand that when you get around people who think differently and they think bigger and they're living in a different way, you will innately just get something out of that. So, and the other thing that goes along with mentorship that I wanted to mention is there is the real concept of reaping what you sow, that you just, it just in any situation, that is a biblical concept that works every single time. And so as a coach, I've always invested in coaches because I know I want people to be investing in my coaching. So I've always had coaches. I need to be investing into the very, industry that I'm in and that I believe in. And so I do always think that when it comes to getting a mentor, you need to be investing in that for proximity, yes, but also because you want to, like, literally with funds, put that somewhere, because that will come back to you somehow, some way, because God's a really great accountant. So there you go.
Man, so good.
Good.
Well, I'd love to wrap it up with one last question. I want to talk about our kids a little bit, you know, raising a family, doing business, but in a family first manner. Catherine, we've got to hang out with your daughter. I mean, such a, so amazing. Like, it's just so fun being around her. Like, just, she's a superstar. Maybe you could speak a little bit, but like, what's one way you guys have navigated kind of like, let's build wealth, but let's also build amazing humans, right?
Yeah.
Not entitlement and all the stuff, like, you know, so maybe Catherine, you could jump into it. And then if you guys have any thoughts, we'll end on this one. And then if you're, you know, going through the boot camp, stick around. We got some stuff at the end, but we'll let these, the panelists go. But man, thank you guys so much for being here. It's been amazing. So good.
This is very simple. Have a shared vision and mission. So what we did as a family, and, you know, I've shared a lot with you guys, Stephen and Chelsea, just, we didn't do it all right, but I can tell you something we did do is we had a family meeting every week, and we had our Gordon family mission statement. And it is this: the Gordons honor and love God in all that we do. So we would have these family meetings. And in the meeting, we'd talk about what was happening during the week. And I always tell families, you got to fight for it. I mean, it's not like we were all jumping for joy to go sit at the table and put our phones down or stop what we were doing. And sometimes it was me, the one that was moaning, right? So it's like, but just to do it. And in the beginning, the kids would be fighting, but we would continue to sit there. And by the end of the meeting, it is so amazing. We were all on the same page. And if something was going on that wasn't in alignment, we'd say, well, in you doing that, is that honoring and serving God in all that you do? So in that was also our shared mission and vision for our life and the growth of our wealth. And so it's about getting back to that and meeting on that and reiterating that. And of course, again, Stephen, Chelsea, as you guys know, we have a prayer that we also say. And we say it all the time. The kids know the prayer. We say it every night, and it kind of keeps things, keeps us back connected with God, which is really what we need to be doing. I can share it with you if you want me to say it.
Let's do it. Hey, pray it. Let's pray it over everybody here. The family prayer.
Here we go. God, we invite you into our marriage and family to love us, to heal us, to unite us, to strengthen us so we can grow strong together and serve you together and raise children that glorify and honor you. And use this prayer. A matter of fact, I'll send you the link and send it to everybody. I always tell people, use whatever part of it you need. We have probably a lot of single moms or moms, maybe the kids are grown, but take what you need. And it's my kids. Okay. So my kids now are 26 and 24. And there were other kids that would actually make fun of them for the way that we were a close-knit family. Isn't that interesting? And in a way, they'd sometimes get a little embarrassed, but I have to tell you now, they are so happy that we fought for our family and that we had that shared mission and vision together. Matter of fact, the other day, my son walked in, there was something going on, and he just said, "Thank you so much for praying for me." He went through a really hard time, like had to drop out of college, send him, it was a whole thing. So anyway, that's it. Shared mission and vision, and have a mission statement and a prayer. If that's
I think that
family meeting too.
Family meeting. We got an episode 99 on the podcast that shows our family meeting rhythm. We don't bring our kids to it yet because they're 4 years old, but soon, I feel like 5 years old, we could start, maybe it'll be like 2-minute meeting with Kai. But man, that was the thing. Even getting around David Green, a CEO or founder of Hobby Lobby, right? Billionaire. Like that was the thing they've done with their family, multi-generational rhythms of let's come back to this core vision. Let's come back to the mission, the vision, the values, and get it in everyone through storytelling and through just repetition, right? And I mean, we do this with our businesses, right? We hold these meetings and we say the mission, the vision, the values, it's about, are we doing this with our family, right? And I think it's such a powerful thing. Pedro, you look like you got something on this one.
I mean, I would say I definitely also don't think we did everything right. Clearly not. I think that's impossible. I mean, there's no perfect parents. There's just you can't, it's just impossible to do this perfect. Right. So, but I think what people sometimes underestimate is we sometimes overestimate what we might tell our kids, but maybe we underestimate what they see.
Yeah.
So I would say what Suzette and I take the most pride in is our kids saw us work together. Our kids saw us build this together. Our kids have seen us fight for and pursue and work and achieve and go and lead. And they come to conference and they see the things that we're doing. They see how our family is being used by God to touch so many people. And they see, and it's like let your kids see that you are pursuing your dreams, that your goals. And I think I heard a speaker one time say I know so many parents tell their kids to go chase their dreams, but theirs are dead. And I'm like, well, that's so one, you go pursue your thing. Let your kids see you work. Again, I'm not trying to glorify work as but let your kids see that you are pursuing, that you are going after it. I think that's hugely important. I think that's really, really, really important. And then, I think for us, I kind of maybe overcorrected because sure, my dad was really hard on me and strict. And so I got a good work ethic and pretty ambitious, but I also didn't really feel like I had this massive father wound about not being loved. So my kids know they're loved. My kids know they're loved. Now now they're 24, 22, and 21. Now I'm kind of wishing they were a little bit more hey, how about we get a little bit more serious about careers, but so maybe I'm oh, maybe I needed to be a little bit more, on them. But the fact is we'll course correct that. It's all good. It's life will hit them when they realize, hey, I want to get married. Hey, I want to buy a house. Hey, and they work in the company and they're starting to get, they're starting to they're starting to really make some progress now. But I have been okay not trying to be like, oh my God, you're 24 now, you're 22, you have to, and just letting my kids kind of come to things when they come to it. And my kids know they're loved and they won't need inner healing from that,
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Skye, I see you got a hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know she's driving.
Yeah,
Can you hear us?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to speak to the women in the room that are single moms or single, because I hear some of the examples about the family and the prayers and all this beautiful stuff that seems like it's your, the little house on the prairie kind of thing that not everybody gets to experience. And, I come from a broken home, and then that cycle was repeated in me. I am remarried. I am in a blended family, but I was a single mom before I remarried, and I did start entrepreneurship before I remarried, and it was hard and it was tough, but it's not that it's not doable. It's not that you can't do it. It's not that you can't still trust God and believe God for that helpmate to come alongside you and go to that next level. It's definitely feasible. You can still talk to your kids and be present for your kids and ask the Holy Spirit and God to help you with training them in the fear and the admonition of the Lord while you're a single parent, and giving you tools like the one that you guys are offering to bring in more income, to provide more flexibility, to be able to not worry about going to Costco or putting them in a better scenario or a better school or a better neighborhood. I did that. And even before I did that, I was in the car with my 1 and 2 year old, living in a car because we got kicked out and we were homeless. And I knew that I didn't want this to be their lot. I didn't want this to be their lot. Yes. And after going through that and realizing that, okay, there's more, there's better than what I experienced growing up with my family, I made up in my mind to truly rely on God and truly entrust on God and not get stuck with where I came from, but focus more on where I know God wanted me to go. So you have everything in you to be successful, even though you don't have this family unit that you hear people talk about that's successful. I was there. Yes, I'm remarried now, but I was there as a single mom when I started my child care development center. I was a single mom because it was something I needed for my kids to be able to work. So why not help other parents and make money while doing it, right? So I just wanted to speak to the people that might be in that situation where they're not in a traditional family unit.
Thank you. That's so good. Catherine, I know you got to run. Jennifer, I want to end with you.
Yeah.
But Catherine, thank you so much for being here. You're amazing. Seeing you around. We'll hopefully see you next week, maybe.
I'm not going to be there. Jade will be there.
All right, cool. We'll see her there. Awesome. All right. Well, Jennifer, end us out on this one.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the entitlement if I could. We've got 4 kiddos, which is a whole lot because a couple of them are a whole lot. But we've got 22. We're looking for a wife for him, by the way, a 20, a 16-year-old and a 10-year-old. And so the thing with like money is money just magnifies whatever is already there. So and that goes for your kiddos too. And so I love that somebody typed in the chat, more is caught than taught. And so we haven't done the whole family nightly prayer thing, even though, our kids have been raised in church. We haven't done any of that. We don't have a family mission, but we've tried to really like live out loud in front of our children and really share with them like generosity and where we're giving at. Whenever I'm launching a course or something, we also share with our kids what the goal is, what we hit, because I was raised in a way where money you just didn't talk about it. I had no idea what my parents made. I had no idea what their mortgage was. We've had our kids write out checks for our mortgage years ago, before it was all online, because I just think that I want them to understand and have like real numbers they can kind of, think about. But when it comes to entitlement, it makes me think of that thing. Was it Michael Jordan that says, that he's always telling his kids, I'm rich. You're not rich. I'm rich. Is it Michael Jordan that said that? Is it Skye? And that cracks me up every time. But we've always told our kids, to whom much is given, much will be required. That's what the Bible says. And so we are able to live a certain lifestyle, but God is also going to expect some stuff out of us that is different, possibly than others. And so what's interesting is when you involve your kids in your business and in your finances, they almost kind of get used to certain conversations and then a certain way of living that, like, now I don't think our kids would be satisfied with anything other. Like, we're kind of the baseline for them. Does that make sense? I've got some hustlers for some kids. For instance, my 16-year-old daughter, she has nails about out to here. And she's also a really good golfer. So her and my husband have designed like golf clubs. And my husband owns a golf apparel company, but where the fingers are cut off so that your nails can go through. And she's 16, and we're going to start her website in the next couple of weeks. And so I can remember back when we didn't have money and I had my painting company, painting for a woman one time who told me that, and she was very wealthy, that she let her girls at a very young age start getting their hair done and their nails done because she wanted them to get used to taking care of themselves so that would just always be something that they invested in. We've always invested in our family in travel. And there's this funny meme on social media that says something like, I'm going to make sure my daughter travels a whole lot so that when your dusty son invites her on a weekend vacation to Miami, she knows enough to say no, right? Skye, you've seen that too. And so, our kids have gotten used to a certain lifestyle. Hopefully they've seen us be generous, but that's also just the baseline for them. Do you know what I mean? And so I think there's a fine line between entitlement and also providing for your children in a way that they want that and even beyond someday. So I just wanted to kind of end with that. Money doesn't necessarily spoil everybody in a bad way. Money is just a neutral thing that's a tool, and it's how it's used that we really need to be the most concerned about. So hopefully our kids have seen us be generous in a way that makes them want to make more too someday so that they can do the same. So.
So good. Awesome. Thank you so much, panel, for being on. I know there were so many like gold nuggets that were shared today. A lot of them are authors. So you can like go find their book, go support them as well. Thank you guys so much for being
thank
here.
you, Jennifer. Thank
Skye,
you, Pedro.
Thank you guys for
Skye,
having
go
us.
get that deal.
God bless you all.
All right.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. If you're not a part of our mastermind yet, I want to say I think you're missing out. Our heart here at Rainmaker is to create total abundance for you. That's why we're offering a free one-on-one family freedom design session for you, our faithful listener.
Yeah, if you want to hop on a call with our team, see if it's a good fit to build a business that creates time freedom for you, financial abundance, and helps you leave that thriving family legacy. That's what we're all about in our mastermind. You can grab a time on our team's calendar at rainmakerfamily.com/mastermind. Again, that's rainmakerfamily.com/mastermind.